There we go. That familiar beep.
Yeah.
We are back, folks.
Oh my gosh. It's been a little bit.
Yeah. So it was crazy. We announced the season announcement back in July.
Yep.
I had a baby. I didn't have.
You had a baby?
I didn't have the baby. I have a baby.
You have a new baby.
But I didn't do the work of pushing that baby out. I was just there for moral support. Yeah, no, our little baby was born, and
exciting.
yeah, and we just need a little bit of time to chill. We actually, it's pretty cool. We did it for a year straight. We did actually more than one per week.
That's right. You were saying that it was the 52 mark. We did 52 episodes. I can't remember what that day was. You were saying that.
Yeah,
Like,
54.
This is the 1 year of us doing the podcast, and it was like, yeah, basically consistent.
Yeah,
it's pretty cool.
It was cool that we tested that model out. So, folks, if you didn't listen to the season announcement that we made back in July, so just to give a quick recap of that, what we're going to be doing is a little bit different than launching weekly episodes. Instead, Levi and I are going to explore doing episodes that are part of like a season format where there's probably, but not always, going to be a consistent theme running through those seasons. And then we'll probably take a little bit of time off, figure out what we want to talk about next, and move forward from there.
Yeah, episodes might come a little bit sooner, a little bit later, but this allows us to be really passionate about the episodes that we do end up recording. And that was kind of the initial idea with me and Matt. Like we had so many great conversations that we just wanted to record them and see if anyone else would listen along. And I think prior we were just really scratching our heads for different topics to talk about. And we just came to the conclusion that I think if something comes very naturally to us, like we've had a couple talks already about different episode ideas, but with it being a lot more organic, it's going to be a lot more passionate episodes, which you guys are like, oh no, more ranting.
We'll keep the ranting at a minimum.
We'll try. But it's going to be more quality. Episodes could come sooner, could come later. And if for some reason we're condensing episodes a little bit, time-wise, we might just schedule them a little bit, maybe weekly or something like that. So that's just me brainstorming right now. Live.
Yeah. And if we end up having the opportunity for a cool interview, we'll obviously try to grab that, even if it doesn't completely fit with the season theme.
Yeah.
Or if there's like exciting announcements in the Jiu-Jitsu community, we might make episodes on that.
That's true. Yeah.
Just to jump in on that and weigh in and see what we think about it. And truthfully, Levi and I actually use the podcast to sometimes play around with some of our thoughts too. So we might end up just launching an episode here or there. But really, we are going to still be producing episodes. So thank you for listening, by the way. We noticed that our downloads were actually improving as we took our break.
Yeah.
So by us not making episodes, apparently that's what the fans like, is not us not doing it.
Yes, that's so bizarre.
Yeah. It was crazy. Yeah, we had more downloads on one single day. Now, keep in mind, everyone who's listening, we don't have like ultra impressive downloads or anything, but we had downloads that would have been like a decent week. We had in one day.
Yeah.
And we had that actually 2 weeks in a row. There was 2 days that actually ended up having a pretty healthy amount of downloads. So
we're like the Firefly of podcasts.
What are you saying, the show?
Yeah, the show.
I never watched that show.
Oh my gosh.
Was it good?
It's considered one of the best canceled shows of all time.
Better than, well, Futurama was canceled 3 times.
Okay, so here's the thing. You really like Cowboy Bebop?
Yeah.
It is live action Cowboy Bebop, basically.
That's a big thing to live up to.
It is, 100%. But it's basically Western space type of thing. Like,
oh, that's cool.
Cool feel. So much so that there's a movie based off of it called Serenity that they ended up making years after it was canceled.
I remember that coming out.
Yeah.
I never saw it, though.
I've never seen it because it's one of those things. Once you watch it, you watched it. Like, it's not as special anymore. So I've been holding out for some reason watching it. I'm not like obsessed about the show.
Demon Slayer too, dude.
Yeah, I'm at the point where like he's on the train and he's half dying. Who knows? There's a lot of people that die in that show. But
telling you, man, you're missing the best part of that movie.
It's crazy that it's a movie.
Yeah, apparently for Demon Slayer, for the future ones here. Oh, come on, computer. Oh boy, it's freaking me out here.
Okay.
Is the charger plugged in?
Yep.
Okay. Yeah. Hold on.
Yeah, because when I plugged it in, it went doo-doo.
It says battery's not charging.
I don't know.
There we go.
My cue.
Nope. Hold on.
Demon Slayer. Some of the action scenes, especially in the beginning, some of the episodes were really cool. It's still really cool, but I was really surprised, like when he was learning all the water stuff with his sword.
What's funny, I had the exact opposite feeling on that.
It got better for you?
Yeah. Yeah, I actually didn't like it at first. I fell asleep like 2 times trying to watch it with my kids. But then over time it grew on me after I saw the Mugen Train.
I have the opposite effect with My Hero Academia. I really got into, like, I was sold almost immediately, and then it just went.
Yep, that's because the episodes got worse, dude.
Oh, maybe that's the case.
Yeah, I feel you with that.
I really liked All Might, and I think once he went more in the back burner, I was like, oh, all right,
Yeah.
I get this annoying Deku kid. It seems like every anime has the main character being some annoying boy. That's what it is. There's no, I don't know, other cool character like All Might. I could watch like a series just on All Might, like when he was getting better and doing a couple of one-shot type stuff. I don't know.
Yeah, and by the way, everyone, just to tell you what we're doing the season about, something that we're going to be doing a little bit more of is like Levi and I are nerdy dudes, and we're actually, and we like Jiu-Jitsu too, so we're going to try to find some similarities between some of those sometimes, but we're still going to try to give really high value stuff here.
Yep.
If we go really off the rails, though, we'll let everybody know in the title of the episode. If the episode is labeled not the Grappling Podcast, just know that we were like, the trail went off the rails, and we just went with it.
We had a beginning framework, and then we just went
we just completely threw in the trash.
What's today? It's
Skyrim, brah.
Dun, dun, dun.
Is that how you're doing the thing?
Yeah.
Yeah, like
let's
that.
do the theme song because it's like dun,
Such
dun,
an epic soundtrack. Bo's been playing it. He made a guy too. My 4-year-old plays Skyrim.
That's pretty awesome.
But yeah, I've been playing too. But it's fun. But anyways, so jumping back to the topic. So today's episode is going to be about kind of like Levi actually came up with a really cool idea about a little more than 2 years ago. You put it on my radar. And I've been thinking about it quite a bit ever since then, about how to structure thinking about your training and skill development and categorizing skills. And I never finished the thought before. This season's going to be more about like, how video games have really cool structure on how to think about progressing through something. Like they're actually designed to help you do that.
Too bad the podcast didn't have like different YouTube has it a little bit, but our own podcast, or maybe we can label it in the title, but maybe like episode 3 of video game ones or episode 4 of anime ones
come
or
up with something like that.
We're just talking live with everybody.
But anyways, the game's designed to want you to want to play them
100%.
And so there's a lot of thought and care that goes into how to structure, how to make you play them more. And by the way, when we say games, we're not talking about like Candy Crush. We're talking about like RPGs, games that really have a lot of heart and soul in their development. Even like
I got
a lot of other games too.
I got so nerdy with it that I watched an hour-long video that was a game developers conference that this guy was explaining how he structured Mortal Kombat 11's tutorial mode.
Oh, that's
like
cool.
How they bring in new people to play the game and how they teach people how to play fighting.
That's super relevant for a school owner.
But that's why I thought, because it was like, it's teaching people how to fight.
That's cool.
So for a game that brings in millions and millions of dollars each year, they have to like really refine how to bring in onboard people into like, they were saying things like how to, like, you could bring someone to basically being like a couch player, like someone who plays through the story mode and then say, okay, how do you go from story mode to like just general online play? And then how do you go from general online play to
black belt and
like competition, like more prestigious Mortal Kombat stuff versus just couch playing with someone online. So I thought it was a great analogy, because I think for Jiu-Jitsu, it's similar. Like people will just learn the mechanics and love playing the game. But then once you start learning to play the game, what's that next spike? And it's teaching people to actively play against other people, like maybe a local tournament or whatever. But then they said there's a whole bunch of other skill sets that are very difficult to teach. That was their big jump of how to transition someone who's just a couch player online to tournament stuff. Like how can we basically build competition Mortal Kombat players through our tutorial mode? I go, wow, like they're setting all that up, and Jiu-Jitsu is very difficult with that.
I wonder how successful that campaign was.
You're saying as far as like their tutorial mode?
Yeah, like how was it actually measurably better at making people better?
They talked about how they had the initial release of the game of Mortal Kombat 11, and then they have a special edition release. And the special edition, they refined like the tutorial mode based on the feedback that they were getting. But I'll have to send you the link, or maybe I'll link it in the description. But it was really cool. It was a cool process to say, how do we teach people how to play a game?
That's cool.
Tutorial mode makes it seem like, oh, here's these, random little buttons and go off and have fun, or combos or whatever. But like, how do you structure it talking about how we have to give rewards consistently to show people like you're making progress, you're doing a good
Yeah.
job. And I'm like, oh my gosh, this has a lot of relevance to teaching people grappling or anything. But yeah, we were going off your Skyrim with
Your Skyrim thing, right?
thought process of it, but like a skill tree. So if you guys have never played Skyrim before, it has a very in-depth skill tree. And I can't remember how many skills are on that skill tree.
Well,
I love the map though. It's
I've
like
been
a
playing this game,
constellations.
so don't worry. I am primed for this topic, Levi.
I played it pretty well, but
There's
probably
15 to 20 different skill trees, and they all consist of different things you can do in the game. So I'm going to be very broad here, but yeah, there's like different schools of magic. There's different ways to create things, whether it's like enchanted items, armor, weapons, potions,
even
stuff
specific
like
like
that.
lock picking, getting better
Yeah.
at lock picking.
Does
or
anybody
fighting or
ever
whatever.
put skill points into lock picking though? I never did, because you can still get through the game without it.
Imagine if you could only get through the game if you couldn't have consistent saves. If you had to like only go to certain save points.
Oh no, I just buy every lockpick I run across. I've got 1,000 lockpicks like that.
Yeah, but it doesn't suck where it goes, darn it.
Now when you got
Darn it.
1,000 of them, baby, I just keep
We're
going.
going through them all.
Yep, get real close to the TV screen.
Let's hope they keep sleeping as I'm breaking.
Most of the time you run in and just adapt ones. Like they're not too bad, but
Mary, our cabbages is gone, but there's 500 broken lockpicks in front of our house.
must be that shitty thief running
They
around
must have
again.
earned-
You definitely leveled up a lot. You get leveling points for breaking lockpicks.
Ain't that weird though?
It's funny because you're just at least giving it a whirl.
It's the hard part, I think. Do you think that translates with Jiu-Jitsu in that sense? If we're talking about the skill tree, how you gain experience from just failing, like you automatically get better at doing it by failing a lot.
I think some stuff doesn't though, because if you like go to a fight and you just get murdered,
Yeah.
you don't get your skill points because you can't save and progress past that point.
Yeah.
If you hit them once and then ran away and hit them once and ran away, assuming you could get away, then you could cheese the system, but it would take you a colossal amount of time. It'd be so silly.
I think that's where my thought process was going as far as developing a skill tree. For example, like guard passing, guard retention, mount control, or even like submissions like arm locks or shoulder locks or leg locks or whatever. And basically giving someone like progress to say, here you can start this like very low level accomplishment, and how could you work yourself up to be world class in that skill? Because even though we have this grappling art that seems like it's one big thing, it's not. It's 20, like I got like roughly 20 sections. And I guess with the thought of our process with this episode, it's especially when you play a game like Skyrim, you don't need to be great at all the things.
Yeah, it's actually best if you don't.
Depending on what your build is.
Yeah, unless you've been doing it for a very long time.
Yeah.
That was actually, you've used the analogy of having a buoy in the water that you can hold on to.
Mhm.
So there's a really neat similarity when you like start seeing similar ideas across different spectrums of activities. And to give because we're talking about like how Skyrim's skill tree system is a cool way to think about your own development in Jiu-Jitsu. If you ever play in Legendary, you have to be very judicious on how you spend your skill points. And that's because you're playing on like the hardest version of the game.
Do you think that could correlate with if someone wants to start training and they're very like adamant about competing? Could that be like a legendary kind of setting?
I would say actually just playing regular jiu-jitsu is playing on Legendary because there's a lot at stake.
I guess it's more so intentions. If someone wants to come in and train and they're just experiencing jiu-jitsu and they're just like looking around, like they don't really care too much of.
That's a good point.
They're
I see
not
what
like
you're saying now.
they're not like obsessing about going home and watching a ton of YouTube videos or instructionals and have a very purposeful thing. Because I've met many types of people with jiu-jitsu over the years, to the very, very casualist to someone who just obsessively thinks about it all the time.
What's funny about that though? If you train a lot, it'll make the game easier. And if you train less, you're actually playing on a harder difficulty in a weird way.
Can you imagine if like you took, people probably have asked this many times of like black belts and instructors, if you could reset your character down to level 1,
how would you
how would you restructure your energy for that next year, that first year of jiu-jitsu? But I think the hard part is they probably do that a little bit with teaching, but let's say how many of them could take a level 1 player underneath their wing and go, if you had a private lesson with them each week for a year, what would they, you know, like
someone who's thoughtful in their teaching.
Yeah. Someone just said like in a year's time, you've got to compete against a black belt. how could I best increase your chance of you doing something well against that black belt?
Weird thing is I
You
feel like
know?
leg locks would be the path.
Someone had that on Reddit actually the other day that was saying that the new white belt starting goes right into leg locks. And someone had said, after seeing Lachlan Giles break people who were twice his size, I think I really wanted to go down that path. But leg locks are a good example of a skill tree thing. Like you could master down this pathway, same with wrestling or guard
Well,
retention
here's
or
the thing,
whatever.
though. I would actually argue like leg locks wouldn't be its own skill tree. It is specific positions and specific submissions from specific areas.
Yep.
Like we've been playing with knee cuts lately for passing. It's not
Yep.
just passing. Like your whole passing system will obviously have nodes that link to each other.
Yeah.
But like with the knee cut, I don't know about you because you've been doing the game a lot longer than me. But when we were playing around with knee cuts the other day, that was like a huge level up for me. And it made me just think about knee cuts differently. And I just got one little sliver of information.
Yeah.
And I don't even have the whole picture yet. So if we just kept going, like your knee cut could become like a legendary level knee cut with that much focus.
Yeah.
And that'd be like an incredible like buoy in the ocean to hold on to. You don't just have a buoy, you have a lifeboat at that point.
Yeah. I think that's where it becomes difficult because I've definitely gotten a little bit of the ecological bug in me. It's not like this huge, massive thing that has encompassed my mind like some people. But it's one of those things where I can definitely tell where it's if you stick with one specific technique, like a passing technique, maybe it could be a little difficult to like be a lot more organic in your guard passing process. So it's like a knee cut mastery feels very good. I think it's like definitely finding a tactic that works very well for you and then finding ways to master it, especially someone like your same size, I would say. But yeah, I think it was hard for me to figure out like how to. I like the idea of the skill tree, but I just didn't like you just said the nodes. I didn't know like what to put for nodes. That was a difficult thing for me.
Yeah, where you after you've acquired so much skill in the game, you unlock the ability to do something like more damage or
Yeah.
be able to do something more proficiently. Versus it is tricky in real life because you don't just have a congratulations, you've acquired enough experience. But bing,
Yeah.
you're better now.
Yeah.
It's more of this like slow
I think
grind.
that's what schools with attendance based
Oh, but bing,
promotions like
welcome.
100 class. Wow, I came in, my knee slice just improved massively.
I guess you could say the stripes are like nodes because
Yeah.
for white belt, you've actually put specific things that you're looking for in that.
Yeah, it's, for me, getting to blue belt is, and we've talked about this before, but like very much just understanding the world and how to navigate it a little bit. It doesn't mean you're very proficient in it, but you understand it. But I think a lot with the nodes, though, to me, I think we'll have to keep a different episode for this, but your whole God of War.
Oh yeah, don't worry,
Thing, right?
that'll be a different one. Or don't talk about the
We won't
the God of
focus
War
on that
thing.
one. But basically, like maybe not so much with God of War, but like beating different monsters, as it were. So, for example, if let's say your mastery was the knee cut, your goal would be to knee slice someone who is a, let's say, white belt who's 50 pounds lighter than you. Like something that should just be fairly simple, but then to gradually work yourself up. So the progression would be like 50 pounds lighter than you, same size as you, and bigger than you. And then it goes blue belt, who's 50 pounds lighter than you, same size as you, 50 pounds heavier than you. Purple belt, who's 50 pounds lighter than you. And like you basically work yourself up to where you're knee slicing against a black belt who's 50 pounds heavier than you. And to me, I think if you're able to pull off a specific technique or move or positional control or positional escape against a advanced practitioner who weighs more than you, I think that is a big sign of mastery right there. Anything past that is like now you're just going into weird legendary modes. You're having to now do it against not just a black belt who's heavier than you. You have to go against trial winners and
I
things
was
like
say,
that.
can you
like,
knee cut your way through an absolute division?
yeah.
Like,
Well, but that's
crazy.
to have someone who's much bigger than you about the same skill. And those are honestly the two factors when it comes into it. The weird third one is that their own proficiency in the contrast. So you basically would have to figure out, it's not just, this is where I get ranty because it's like, it's not just the overall belt as a black belt, because that person might have a black belt in guard retention. Like on their skill tree, they might have been able to stop black belts who were heavier than them from passing their guard. Like look at Levi Jones. Like he's got a broken skill tree with all guard retention. So even though you have a very proficient knee slice.
He's got good passing too.
Yeah, that too. But like you have a proficient knee slice, but he's got a way higher level guard retention game, so just to negate it. So I say it because it's very difficult for all of us to measure skill proficiency when it comes to jiu-jitsu, I think. So to me, the best way to measure it is just to basically have like the 9 or 10 characters that you'd have to beat. Or I don't know, probably more because there's 5 belt, white, blue, purple, brown, black, 5.
Yeah, so
And then
15.
three on each.
Yeah, you got
So
15.
it's 15 levels of monsters basically to beat. You can't do anything more than that. Anything past 15 is now you're going against titles. You're going against like someone who won the ADCC trials, someone who a world champion, like a lot, like big pedigree, because now that's technically beyond a black belt. Those are beyond black belts.
Yeah,
we
like
don't have ranks for them, but
Rob
like
says there's black belts and then there's black belts.
but the problem is the degrees that we have with black belts doesn't correlate with skill level. Basically, after
You tell me that the coral belt doesn't actually mean something?
I think they're pretty experienced, but the idea is that past black belts with the degrees, I think each degree it adds like an additional you're gonna have to train. So like this might be wrong, but this is weird paraphrasing. Once you get a black belt, I think it's after 2 years, then you get your first degree.
Oh,
Then it's 3 years and you get your second degree. Then it's
Okay.
4 years and you get your fourth degree. It's not like a technical thing now. It's like time. Time being, they said like an active black belt. Like you're running a school, you're still involved with jiu-jitsu. That way you just don't retire and you're sitting in your retirement home going, I got my 9th degree today, kind of thing. So
That'd be pretty funny. That actually is really
so think
funny.
about that next time you cut in line in front of me, Barbara.
Get my tapioca pudding.
Yeah, exactly. So, but I think titles will probably be the best thing after that, after a black belt. But I think if you want to progress that way, it has to be that. We talked a little bit with God of War stuff, but I think the God of War stuff is your confidence in overcoming those people. You know what I'm saying? Like the consistency.
Don't
Okay,
stop
we
it.
won't.
Stop it.
I'm
You're
trying.
doing it.
I'm
You're
trying.
saying let's not
It's
talk
hard-
about
it's
it
hard when
as you start
it's hard when
talking
it's a
about
merged
it.
topic. So anyways, skill tree. There's so many things in jiu-jitsu, which is a beautiful thing of it, to master. Same with Skyrim.
Mhm.
So I think to Matt's tangent a little bit before, it's like, what do you choose?
Yeah, and you also, very important topic on this, you don't have time or energy to max out every skill tree. That's just the truth of it.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of interesting. Some people get further
That
than
is
others.
weird.
If you start really young in jiu-jitsu, maybe you can get like pretty far. Like Hodger Gracie's probably pretty far in every skill tree.
Do you think
know?
that's similar with like lifting?
What do you mean?
I don't know. Like you almost have so much time and energy to develop like your muscles in different ways. Do you think? I don't know. I was trying to figure out some other thing that could correlate with that.
Probably anything in life. You have
Yeah.
to,
I guess
For every
the
yes-
general big sign. Yeah.
for every yes you say, you close like a million other doors. So you
Mhm.
have to be judicious.
Yeah.
Judicious?
Judicious.
I said it earlier and I didn't have a problem. But you have to be very cognizant of how you spend your time, which is your skill points. But think about it. When you say yes to becoming a really good chef, you're saying no to something else. You
Yeah.
know? We say yes to being really good at jiu-jitsu. We're saying no to not being in pain and having cuts and scrapes. And
Saying
my
no.
finger has been aching for a while. But yeah, like I think that's actually
That is
like one
kinda
of the
weird.
biggest takeaways is you have to go, what thing are you going to level up? Stick with the one thing once you've gone through the buffet and you've looked at and tried a couple different things. You're going to put skill points into stuff that you realize is dumb and you shouldn't have done it. But like, for instance, I put more time into over-under passing than I probably should have because we do no-gi. It really is, it falls apart the minute someone knows a little bit of jiu-jitsu. It's cool, but it's like a C grade pass at best. And versus if I just would have stuck with like X passing and leg drags and knee cuts.
What do you think about moves like the buggy choke? Weird.
I actually have a thought on here about buggy chokes.
Oh,
Yeah, I actually did a
fantastic.
little thinking
I
about
was
that
just
ahead
trying
of
to
time.
think of something that could possibly break the model a little bit, or
So, okay, the way I think about it is S tier skills, as in the best level, the
Yeah.
things that hold up the longest, they have a tree of their own.
Okay.
So, like we said, passing isn't a tier, knee cut is a tier, and so on and so forth. And then the entire category, so like in Skyrim, it's colored. So all of the red things, it'd be like passing. And then you have all the different, or blue things, and then the different schools of magic are the different schools of passing and stuff like that.
Yep.
But non-S tier skills would just be like a node on that tree as a bonus move that works when you get there. And so an example for the buggy choke would be It's like a bonus move if you're like working on your side escape control or side escape skill tree.
Yeah.
Then that you'd be able to go, yeah, you learn the buggy choke, and it's just a little bonus thing. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, depending on how good you are at it. You can throw it up and it'll at least make your opponent deal with it. I can't do the buggy choke to save my life, but some people can.
Yeah, I've never got caught in one yet. Doesn't mean that people can't. I think it's interesting because why do people, instead of working side escapes or working guard retention, would just throw that up there instead and then maybe catch someone or doesn't catch someone? I think it's fascinating because, well, look, Levi, I'm tapping out a blue belt and I'm a white belt. This gets, I think, what you said, the analogy of the buoy, like gets my like win. You know, like you want to win instead of develop. That's a weird word.
I think it's a trick. It's a trick spell, like the buggy choke. Once you've seen it once from that person,
that's what it is. It's like more trick things.
Yeah, and then once somebody's seen it though and knows how to deal with it, I feel like it falls apart.
Okay,
I think people really like it though because you're in a crap spot anyways. You have literally like nothing to lose.
Yeah.
Like you aren't getting counter subbed. You're on the bottom and you're actually launching an offensive move.
So I guess that's where it becomes that creativity, because let's say if someone who's like a black belt or whoever is looking down at that person, they're going, well, would you rather be spending time developing your buggy choke, or should you be spending time more on escaping your position?
Or not getting into it in the first place.
Yeah, and then that's the other skill.
Because actually, you've talked about that. I think that has a lot of bearing on how people think about jiu-jitsu.
I think it's weird because
I fall to my back
with the analogy
all the
of the skill tree. I think there's priority skills, like I call, talk about jiu-jitsu, like opening phase and middle phase and end phase. Like the priority is 100% opening. I don't know why people like John Danaher and Gordon Ryan talk about like proficiency and not getting tapped and escaping bad positions.
You never see him in bad positions.
So their thought process saying, if you're not afraid of going for something, because if you get in that spot, you can escape or not get tapped, you can be a little bit more reckless in your attacking because you're not as timid.
Or maybe it's in the practice room, not being timid.
Yeah.
Adds up.
But I just think that, like, let's say you lose a match, right? I think to me, when we're talking skill tree proficiency, if you go back to the room, do you think Danaher is saying just focus on like escaping more and that's going to help you? Or why not level up your passing or level up whatever so that there's a lesser chance of you getting put in that position? I really hate, it's a strong word, but I really hate how some black belts will talk about the first year of being a jiu-jitsu person is all defense. You just got to learn to survive. And I think it comes to being in a room of people that are constantly attacking you all the time, or the culture, and all you can do is survive. Because if they just tell you that's the goal, you'll feel better about it. You'll be like, oh, okay, this is all part of the process. Like, I got to put my defenses up all the time. Don't expect to knock them out. Just expect not to get knocked out.
To steel man that position a little bit, though, or play the opposite with it, devil's advocate a little bit. I wonder if that also, though, is to deal with the fact that having decent defense is better. It's easier to get a win defensively than it is offensively.
Sure.
And then also, if you have a room full of spazzy dudes who are new to jiu-jitsu, if you focus them towards doing defense, they're less likely to accidentally poke people in the eyeballs and accidentally break people's arms because they fall funny. And I wonder if it's one of those like cue things where you go, they're saying one thing, and but in the back of their mind, they're going like, because this, or if I don't do this from like a whole school approach, people get really hurt.
Or I would say that maybe it's just more like the whole picture as a whole. You've got to focus on offense and defense as a whole. Like when we do our drills, it's like you're focused on guard passing and guard retention. Like you have to be able to be good at both. So you're just like leveling up the whole field up until blue belt. There should not just be this like, cool, you get a blue belt because I say that because let's say a purple belt or a brown belt passing a white belt's guard or blue belt's guard, they're not going to stop it. It's cool. You feel like you're some defense, but then what are you learning defense for? Against another white belt who comes in? Well, that white belt's going to also be doing defense too. Like you're not actually developing any solid offense. To me, white to blue should just be foundations. You're just learning foundations of how grappling works.
Sampling the buffet.
Going back to the thought process of priority skills, to me, if I throw an analogy of invading a castle, like you should always develop your archers 100% or snipers, as it were. Like you don't even let people get near your castle at all.
Yeah.
have outstanding wrestling, have outstanding guard retention / guard offense or front headlocks. And
Yeah.
no one's ever getting there. You don't have to put any of your skill tree points in pin escapes, submission escapes, which sounds weird. But if you think about it, Matt, let's say you and I have a match and you pass my guard and you end up tapping me. It's like, big whoop. We just had a random match on the mats. There's no titles. There's no money. There's no weird things on the line. Go back to the drawing board and going, okay, how did Matt pass my guard? So the whole game in the beginning defensively just is all about, if you get inside my castle, that's my loss. I don't care if you raid everything and take everything. I just have to, if you have a boardroom, Matt, of people in a castle and you just got invaded, what's the talks about? Why did we get invaded?
Yeah.
Like the Helm's Deep thing. That should have never happened. I hate that moment. Legolas had 2 perfect shots on this guy with the big bomb coming in.
Yeah.
And couldn't take him down.
He was a tough dude.
Should have took his legs out or something. He took his neck. And he just anyways.
He just kept rolling, man.
But basically, it's like, where do we put our resources? Let's say we have $1 million to improve our castle. Where do we put it after an invasion?
That'd be wherever the weakness was. Actually, without just jumping back a topic too. So what's interesting is we talk about these words like guard retention and guard maintenance.
Yeah.
And we talk about passing. Like, we really need to talk more about how you either are attacking from the bottom or you're attacking from the top.
Yeah.
And that's actually probably the way we should think about it.
Yeah.
Because if we switched grappling with boxing, I know people counterpunch, and that's like valid, but getting punched in the face as your move, that's how you get them, do the Homer Simpson. That is not exactly a viable strategy. So like focusing too much on things like too much on escapes and stuff like come into side control and I'm going to get you, dude.
Yeah.
It's probably not a super viable long-term solution to become good at the game.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It was just something I was thinking about where I'm like, because when you think of guard, you're thinking, come attack me so I can do my guard
100%,
thing.
Yeah.
Versus or even the castle analogy, right? You're like, it's not come attack my castle so I can get you. It's if you get close enough to me, I'm going to get you. Like the only thing stopping us is that we can't move because we're in a big stone building.
Yeah.
But it's really, can you either attack from the top or can you attack from the bottom?
Yeah.
And I think that, I don't know, for me, and I'm just a blue belt, folks. I'm not exactly been in the game for a long time, but that I think helps a lot, and I need to employ that more personally.
And I think with that offense, like I said, I think that's just priorities of where you should put your immediate skill tree. It should be the opening game. It should be like, how do you develop that? Do you want to wrestle? That's fine. Do you want to go for headlocks or do you want to go for leg locks? Like we're talking like no-gi specifically. If you want to throw in the gi, you could pull guard with the gi and spider guard and lasso guard and all that kind of stuff. But that sets the stage for the middle phase, which is now you've got this position. What are you going to do with it?
And why even bother maintaining it? You only should maintain it for as long as you need to.
Maintaining what?
The middle positions.
Oh, right.
We talk a lot about like maintaining a position,
You
and
get to
it
it,
is important. You don't want to just lose the thing.
Now you
it's
have to
worked
figure
for.
out where that end destination is going to be. Do you need a better middle position? So let's say you need to get back control. But then from that spot, you're going, okay, how am I closing the deal here? How am I going for the submission? So I say that because if you're building your game towards a submission, yes, you should have really good rear naked chokes and triangle chokes and all that kind of stuff. But if you can never get there, I think it's a tough road to go down then. Like I like doing our drills because you can do drills where you can set people up in these variety of situations. Like I said, it's almost like a castle situation where you can kind of play different spots. But for me, it seems unless you're like really focused on tournament gold, I think your long-term goals should be focusing on like the first layer of defense and then all the layers after of offense.
So it'd be like focus on the core skill trees.
Yeah. Core skill tree to me is, if I prioritize it, it's like opening offense, opening defense, middle offense, end offense. And then from there, it's middle defense and end defense.
Here's a weird thing though. So opening defense
that's like
really should just be the amount of work it takes to get you back to doing your offense.
That's
right.
That's just the one shift. If you're shifting, that should already be a bad thing. If I'm going for offense from guard and you're starting to pass and move around, and I think what was the word? Rob was using, like guard retention, guard maintenance or something like that.
Recovery.
Yeah, if you have to recover, that's already kind of, whoa, what are you doing here?
Yeah.
If you're learning defense, that should be the very first thing that you're putting anything into. But this is why, like with Lachlan Giles saying, if you're passing my guard, like to me, that's already a huge loss. That should be the big thing. But your main priority should be like, that's where it can become a weird game. Like your whole jiu-jitsu game could be, why did they take me down? Or why did they pass my guard? You don't need to focus on anything else. I don't know why you need to focus on anything else.
Or why couldn't I get that takedown? Or why couldn't I
think
pass
everything
the guard?
else, as far as defense-wise, when we're talking about like matches in here and hanging out, it's just more experiencing the game. Like how often do you think Jordan is focused on like spiderweb defense?
I don't know. We should ask him.
Say like him being on his back.
Oh yeah, Jordan on his back. That's very
being
rare.
in a spot to defend against it. But I'm curious then, does his skill tree points in certain spots allow him to not have to be in those situations?
It's
right?
exactly what we're talking about. Those who are listening, you should listen to Jordan Laster. He was episode 54 and 50. Oh no, sorry, 54, and it was an early one. Sorry.
Yeah.
But college wrestler, great training partner. Just recently competed at the ADCC Open. Great guy.
Mm-hmm.
His wrestling is incredible. He was top 12 in the nation. So he's got his skill tree is maxed out for wrestling and for a variety of different takedowns and stuff. He's a wizard like that.
Yeah.
And you can see when you train with him, he can funnel it back to, if he can get on his feet, it's dang. Like that was a lot of work for nothing.
Mm-hmm.
He's going to get back. He's probably going to get back on his feet. He's probably going to get up. And then he's probably going to, like, he can just keep falling back to that. And then also being so developed in that one skill tree forces you to play a different game. Levi and I are 35. We did not wrestle when we were younger. And so we have to be a little more thoughtful about the way we're playing this game. But if he's standing, if we stand with him, we're going to get taken down. And so
I think it's tough as someone who
makes you play guard.
Someone who chooses to stand, I think you have to learn two big skill sets. You have to learn front headlock defense. You have to learn wrestling defense, and you have to learn guard passing offense. For someone who's guard playing, all I have to focus on is getting you into my guard and sweeping you down.
What about, though, people from guard get headlocked? People do different, like, guillotines and stuff.
If you're on your back, if you're in a
seated guard,
you're going to have to worry about that. But if you play more of a supine guard, there might be some defensive things. I wonder what Rob has for...
Because like a seated guard is typically better than a supine guard.
Yeah. I would say I will generalize a little bit more. I think there's less things to master when it comes to the seated position or the bottom position than there is a standing position, success-wise.
Oh, okay.
But I think if you work more standing, the prime thing you get, though, is gravity. Like, you get gravity on your side now to start passing and pressuring into people and getting on top.
Yeah, you can move around a little bit more.
So I think there's things that get benefited being on top. But yeah, like I said, with all these things, I think, to me, when we're looking at a skill tree, great example, Matt, that you used before, like lock picking. You don't worry about like increasing your skill with a lock pick, because what did you just say? I'll just get tons of lock picks. Or someone who goes, I'll save, I'll lock pick. And then the crazy thing with Skyrim is that you can save right before you do something that might be tricky.
Yeah.
And then if it fails,
I wonder if we could do
you can quick reload.
That's what a drill is.
Yeah. You just quick reload and go, let me try this again.
So everyone tap is just the reset button.
Yeah. That reminds me of the Rick and Morty episode where he has a button to stop time.
God, that show like breaks your heart sometimes.
I know.
Too.
That was an amazingly hard episode to watch.
That was a good one though.
But so Skyrim wise, you could tab one lockpick and you could just go back and forth until it actually works. So to me, I think sometimes with jiu-jitsu, you can do that theoretically. Like someone passes your guard, you can go, I'm done.
Yeah, if you're drilling. You're drilling. Don't be a cruddy training partner.
I would say that's crazy, because if you really want that, you should drill hard all the time opening games. Like a wrestling group is really great for that, because it is the opening game. Wrestling is just, there's obviously lots of stuff within
that's why
grappling to build up.
Folks, if you're listening here, when we're doing skills, sometimes it's okay to keep going if you want to see like where something's going to go.
Yeah.
But don't keep going the second something stops. If you want to leverage the reset ability, you gotta. Hold on. I hear you taking a breath. I'm still going. I'm still going.
Go for it. Go for it.
But you gotta be able to capitalize on the fact that yes, you're intentionally giving up going forward in that game, because you want to just accumulate a ton of volume to beat this thing. And then if you are just smashing through somebody and you like say like we're using knee cuts for the example, you are literally just knee cutting them every single time. That's the point at which you either have them start in a better position that you are in a worse position, or you pick a different skill, right? Or a different training partner or something like that, because don't keep going. There's this huge tendency to just be like, everyone to be like so chill and be like, yeah, let's just keep going, bruh. Don't do that if you want to get really good or if you want to develop your skills quicker. And I know this is like a mid-grade blue belt saying this, but
It's okay.
But for reals though, I've learned a lot more personally
Yeah.
in like my own journey with this by employing that. Also, I can train more often when I do that, and I'm less likely to get hurt.
Yeah.
Because there's less chaos because you're just doing the same thing over
Doing
and
the
over
one
again.
thing.
And then be a good training partner, and whatever they want to do, you do for the next 5 minutes.
Too bad it's not like South Park where you're in the forest killing boars.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Imagine if that was the case. You just take the white belt and you're just like, knee slice, knee slice.
And that actually gave you the skill to beat the black belt. That'd be so weird, wouldn't it?
That would be weird.
I'm just beating the crap out of new guys.
I think it's so bizarre, and I think I just had the point. It wasn't working. Oh, when people I'm sure people argue defense still is pretty good because you can switch a match up. The problem is, I think from a lot of tournaments I've been at recently, I haven't seen a lot, and maybe the stats could prove me wrong, which I'd love to see, how many matches completely turned around when someone, let's say they got their guard smashed and they went to side control and they went to mount and go, oh no, the guy escaped to half guard. Oh, he built up to guard. Oh, he went for a triangle choke. Oh, he tapped it with the triangle choke.
That's a good point.
Like,
that
how
also,
often did that happen? You know,
I would love a breakdown by belt too.
White belt for sure.
Yeah,
is way more floppy and random.
Just sometimes
like
really exciting matches too, though, as far as like the back and forth.
Yeah, but at blue belt, I think it takes a really strong dip.
And
like
then
now they're getting taught how to hold people. Oh, there should be escapes, but
yeah,
I just don't see it as much.
I wonder too if it's a weight thing too, because there's like some guys who are just amazing at getting their knees in.
120 or 130, maybe it's more pliable. But can you imagine two guys who are 250 and a 250-pound guy holding a 250-pound guy?
We've seen a lot of heavy weight matches. It almost all. In fact, I cannot think of a single time, and I could probably be misremembering this, but I cannot think of a single time that once one guy got momentum, the other guy was able to stop it and turn it around.
It doesn't mean that it's never happened, but even just you having a hard time remembering.
Yeah, I'm thinking like, every match is usually some type of takedown. Yeah. And then, because it's some big dudes, right? It's a lot of energy to move those bodies.
Yeah.
They'll get into a really strong holding position, and anybody who's been held down by a big guy knows that it is very hard to get out of.
Yeah.
Especially if they have a power belly. Man, that is like rough.
Power belly.
Seriously, the power belly is a real deal. I've been stuck in some side controls that I'm like okay at getting out of side control, but that was not happening. Took every ounce of ability.
Maybe that's a tough one too, because especially someone who's much bigger than you, like someone's 100+ pounds bigger than you, like being able to just sweep someone over from side control or whatever, like probably is, I don't know. I think percentages change a lot with certain things, like being able to escape. Doesn't mean that people don't have great escapes. Like let's say Gordon's a kipping escape, for example. Like there's some
rocks.
There's some cool ones.
He can pull off on a lot of people.
Oh, 100%.
That's a good one. I think it gets pulled off on me sometimes.
Like I had a competition where I got my guard pass. They went to side control. They went to mount. I elbow knee escaped as I went to mount. I got half guard. I swept them over from half guard. The momentum changed for sure, but it's just one of those things where if I use that analogy of the asteroid coming to Earth, like you want to stop that thing way far out, and it's much easier versus all way close in. Like it's cool to see momentums change, but if you go back to our skill tree analogy, like I think it's of where you're putting your energy in, it just, I don't see it having massive returns for pin escapes and submission escapes. I think submission escapes or pin escapes, you should have one
or two.
Yeah, like it's like
because you can use them
elbow
together.
escape. Here's a good one. Like elbow escape, you can use multiple different spots, just the movement.
Or how about this? Like for instance, mount escape. Mount escapes. If you can do a trap and roll, an elbow knee, and a kipping escape, that'll actually probably do pretty good a lot of the time. Yeah. Like you can do quite a bit with those three. A lot going on there.
But it's just like my friend that said, I don't have to worry about guard retention or whatever because I could just escape when they get into side control. If I just level up my escape.
Be best not to get into side control because then you lose points too.
On top of that, like so he went into a division that he was a purple at the time at his same weight, and this guy held him down for like 2 minutes.
In the gi?
In the gi.
People can really like just stick you to the floor.
But that's why he trained it. So he had that confidence with the gi, but in his own weight and his own belt, he said, oh, that guy was insanely heavy. And it was just a very technical purple
Yeah.
belt that he couldn't leave. I'm like,
I've been held down in the
just
gi
seems
by some dudes that
weird.
were smaller than me, and I felt like they were like 250 pounds. So like I was like, geez.
But like you said, like where you put your energy, it just doesn't seem equal. It doesn't seem equal to be like, let's
You're
go
not
back to the drawing board.
you're not going to win escaping.
Yeah.
You know, at least it just doesn't feel that way. I think we get really enamored with escapes because they're fun too, though.
Yeah.
Because it is cool to be like, watch, I'll get out of here. And if you are more skilled than the person you're going against, or you just happen to get lucky, or you really practice with that specific escape,
Yeah.
it is cool to get out of stuff or
Yeah.
put yourself in a bad spot and then work your way out of it sometimes. So maybe that's why people jump onto the idea of that skill tree getting developed. But
Yeah.
I do think the attack from the bottom, attack from the top, that is how we talk about it. That is probably the way to think. And so, hold on. We've actually been going for 50 minutes. We should probably sum this up.
Keep this going.
So,
We could talk a lot more on this.
yeah, that's good. We'll have other episodes in the season. We got to save a little bit of
See
juice
what we
for.
talked about? Like, we have episodes that we can just keep talking about. Like, that's the energy that we're trying to go for with this.
Yeah, it'll be fun.
I'll leave with one thought. And
Yeah.
one thought is you should always be focusing on where it went from an offensive cycle to a defensive cycle. Just that mark. Once you focus on that, like, then it guides your training way more. Like, you took someone down, you passed their guard, but now they did an elbow escape from side control. So the takedown was good, the guard passing was good, but now they side elbow escaped on you. Like, now you've got to sharpen that up.
Figure
you
out
know?
where in your process you essentially have a constraint where you're not getting the outcome that you want. The water's flowing out of the
Not
pipe.
getting the outcome where you want. That's cool.
Because ideally if we do classic, you take
Yeah.
down, you take the back, and you
Yeah.
rear naked choke them, kind of thing. And like that, it's a good process, honestly. It's great. It's just if you can't, where is your process breaking? And then that's where you hit the reset button over and over and over and over again until you can get through that.
It's just hard when like guys like Hickson Gracie. Hickson would do examples, and I've said this many times before, but like how he measures himself against this other person, and he just goes to the most defensive position ever, which is back control or whatever, and escapes that and goes full circle and takes their back and then submits them. So I think some of those things are fun to show like your overall round feeling of like how to manage someone. But I think what Matt and I are getting at is that you can have very proficient games with minimal, like the skill tree doesn't have to be equal across the board.
Yeah. In fact, it's
Basically.
probably best not to be.
I think that's where my skill tree idea was coming from with promotions, where I was like, if you can hit just a total number of markers, nodes, for example, to me, it's if you get 20 nodes, that's a blue belt, overall blue belt skill level rank or whatever.
Yeah, you had passing and pulling, or passing or playing guard,
Mm-hmm.
attacking from the bottom or attacking from the top.
Mhm.
And then you also had specific submission categories. This is originally how the whole idea started.
Yeah.
And that was really cool. I thought that was a fantastic framework, especially for a nerdy dude like myself. It just immediately snapped a bunch of thoughts in place to be like, okay, pick certain things, level them up as best you can. Make sure to invest your time into like movement categories and things like that are going to have the highest payout. For that, we can do a little bit of research and you can go, okay, what are the passes that are working at the highest level? What's not working?
Grappling conjecture.
Yeah, Grappling Conjecture's got awesome stuff. If you remember back in one of our early episodes, we did an analysis and found out that rear naked chokes, inside heel hooks, and outside heel hooks made up like an unbelievable high percentage. Like it made up like 60% of the subs on the Grappling Conjecture data that we pulled for no-gi. You can go back and listen to that episode if you'd like. I think it was like episode like 11 or 14 or something like that.
Yeah,
it was way back there.
Yeah.
But yeah, pick something that is going to work and level up well and doesn't have a short shelf life on it.
And I think we'll talk about how to do that specific thing with your God of War.
Yeah,
episode.
with the labors.
So once you have picked something, okay, now how do we measure this?
Good idea. You're tying this all
Right?
together, Levi. I like
tried.
this. I like this. On that note,
That's where it kept crossing over with me. I'm like, because it just bled to that next thing.
Yeah, okay. So step one, define your priorities.
Yes.
That's what it actually is.
And this is what us giving our advice of what priorities if you're lost. Doesn't mean you can't enjoy the whole game. I mean, there's so many amazing things
stuff
all the time. I mean,
we spent a while on ham sandwiches.
I remember that was the slime mold jiu-jitsu that was talking about like beer league jiu-jitsu, where it's just a fun game to play with your friends and do some cool things. But I think our skill development overall is like what Matt said about Skyrim being legendary mode. Like now you want to be more consistent at winning that game. Then we talk. That was always my answer whenever I had more advanced people in here. Like, I never wanted to step in and say, you should focus on something else. But the moment you start like complaining that you're not getting as many successes as you want or something like in a specific spot, then I'll step in and give my 2 cents on it. But I guess that's our episode 2 cents. This kind of stuff for skill tree priority, but we'll talk about the labors next time.
Season 2, episode 2. We're gonna figure out how to title these things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It'll sound good.
All right. I think that's the pod.
That's the pod.
Where can people find us, Levi?
The Grappling Podcast. Clearly, you guys can find us.
Yeah. Also, though, we should.
Downloads are going.
I think we do need to like get on everything a bit more. So you can find us on all social media platforms.
Go on the TikTok.
We should do the TikTok? Yeah.
No, I don't know.
I don't know how to TikTok. You're going to have to help me out there.
No, I thought it was illegal in the United States. But apparently people are, because it was like a China thing. I thought it was owned by China or something.
TikTok? Yeah, people have been TikToking like crazy.
I know. I thought it was like some illegal thing, but maybe not.
We're just sitting over here being old.
You guys will find us online, and we'll catch you later.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye.